welcome to this webinar, How Connected Worker Technologies Are Impacting Utility Operations as part of UA Week 2020. My name is Gina Weber, Managing Director with Utility Analytics Institute, and I will be your host for this presentation. Before we begin, we welcome your questions during the event. Please use the discussion forum to the right of your presentation window. We encourage you to interact with today's speaker, sponsor, panelist, and each other throughout the session and beyond. Today's session will be available on the UA Week platform until Friday, December 4th. With that, let me introduce you to today's moderator. Megan Peterson brings a comprehensive understanding of what is required to successfully deploy connected worker solutions to the utility sector. Her experience navigating challenges presented by the convergence of operational technology and information technology have enabled her to shorten the implementation time on the path to digital transformation for her customers. With that, let me turn things over to Megan.
Thank you, Gina. Today, we have two exceptional utilities with us to discuss how connected worker technologies are impacting utility operations. We also have CBT's Solution Manager for Wearable Compute, who will join us to provide a live demonstration of the connected worker solution. We have our panelists online and ready to answer your questions during the live Q&A in this session, so please engage with us. First, we will speak with two gentlemen who I have the privilege of working with, Al Choi, Business Innovation Manager from Xcel Energy, and Phil Len, Director of Technical Services from SEMCO. They are going to share their journey to finding connected worker technologies. They offer two perspectives, and we will hear how these two are managing the innovation implementation. To start us off, can you both please introduce yourselves and share your roles with us?
Yeah, thanks, Megan. Good morning. I'm Al Choi, and as Megan mentioned, I'm the manager in the business innovation team at Xcel Energy. We're part of a larger organization called the ITO, or Innovation Transformation Office, and largely we're responsible for identifying, diligencing, and when appropriate, we want to facilitate a pilot to prove out a lot of these technologies or concepts. Personally, I've been with Xcel Energy for over 13 years now, and I had the opportunity to work with a lot of the cutting-edge projects. Such as battery energy storage, the first pluggable electric vehicles, and then recently new digital platforms and solutions using machine learning, and some of the new innovative IoT, innovative industrial Internet of Things technologies like RealWear, which we'll talk about a little bit further. So thanks, Megan. Happy to be on board here.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. My name is Phil Len. I'm with SEMCO Energy Gas Company, a utility company in Michigan, and in part of Alta Gas out of Calgary. I've been with SEMCO for almost 27 years. I'm responsible for our EOHS functions at SEMCO, which include our operator qualification, technical training, safety, cathodic protection, fleet and pipeline compliance. So wide range of responsibilities in the utility sector. My background is a little bit different. I come from an operational background, did a lot of construction design, inspection, was operations manager. So again, heavily on the operational side. Really part of my involvement in this process was really looked at as a training piece, enhancing our training process and how we develop employees.
Well, thank you both. Phil, I'm going to start with you. So what are the key challenges your business is facing, and how do you feel this technology will help solve those challenges?
Sure. So to start, really one of the initial challenge that was developed was a changing workforce, right? So throughout the utility industry, we're seeing some older generations retire, and it really drives the need to enhance our training programs, and how do we handle gaps in losing that experience. So when we looked at something like this technology, was really about potentially being able to utilize people and help people through processes maybe that don't have 100% of that skill set. But certainly 2020 has been a difficult year, and obviously COVID is another challenge to the workforce. And as we started talking about technology, we really started looking at this as potentially helping how we handle like in SEMCO specifically, some of our remote sites and maybe minimizing contact with other people, and using a product like this to solve how we handle regulatory requirements around operator qualification.
That's great. Al, I'm going to turn it over to you. How about you? What are you guys up against?
Yeah, sure. So as far as the key challenges, aligning with what Phil said, there's a lot of transition going on right now. And at the highest level, all of the connected worker capabilities affect our strategic priorities, which are leading the energy transition, improving the customer experience, and then obviously keeping bills low for our customers. But underlying a lot of that, as we mentioned, is the digital transformation, both on the business side and the field ops side. And if we think about this, going back just even a few years, the IT side and the OT side never really converged, and now they do. And pretty much all the utilities now have this significant amount of technology debt, where the legacy systems are, point-to-point, single source solutions patched over the years. And we're trying to get to more of an open service-oriented architecture and avoiding the one-offs, as I talked about. The connected worker is going to interface between all of that, and in some ways, more than others in our strategic priorities, help reduce the costs and improve the experiences that we have, and obviously also include improve safety as well. So it really all comes back to how all of connected worker can align with everything that we're doing, not just a single area.
And I'm going to continue with you here. So, as many other utilities are in their first steps of implementing new innovations, can you talk about how your innovation team scouts, diligences, and selects technologies?
Yeah, sure. First thing I can tell you is how not to do it. And that's not to go find a solution, do it in a silo, and then throw it over to operations and say, here you go, Merry Christmas. That being said, we've learned a lot, and at least I have, in the last over a decade that I've been at Xcel Energy, and it's still a work in progress. But overall, our innovation team aims to have 100% cross-organization involvement. We're probably about 70% there today, but we're definitely making headway. And to assist with all of that, as you may know, we have been members of this organization called Energy Impact Partners. It's an investment fund since 2015, and also participated in EPRI's Incubate Energy for the last 2 years. So, and then actually just recently, we held our Shark Tank Innovation Challenge, where we came up with over 500 new ideas. So through all these different kinds of vehicles, we have the opportunity to get the first look and first exposure to a lot of these cutting edge technologies and concepts. And then innovation, our team has its own subject matter experts as a first line of diligence, so to speak. But we're not the experts about everything, right? So we quickly pull in our business ops and subject matter experts from those areas for deeper dives. And then we also, as part of innovation, want to make sure we help with developing the business case so that it can support the operations as well. They are in lockstep with us at all times at this point, because when we decide to go to a full pilot or full implementation, everything has to be ready to go. It can't be a surprise to the operational area. And then lastly, once you have that business case development, you obviously want to pitch it to a senior leadership to make sure that they're all on board and the funding's available, and all the different executive silos or verticals are aligned.
That's great. So Phil, you're in a bit of a different spot over at SEMCO. You guys don't have a full-blown innovation team. So how do you guys handle it there?
Sure. Yeah, we are in a different situation there, but I think like a lot of companies, our company really empowers leaders to look for ways to create educated ways to use technology to enhance our processes. So, for us, again, this was something that was looked at as maybe more of a specific need in one particular area. But as we work through other parts of our organization, including that integration with operations, we looked at how we can use this to enhance our other processes. So we have really more of a down and dirty approach to the way we build a business for things like this. But again, it's more along the same path. It is important that we organize and make sure all of our stakeholders are part of the process to ensure it is effective.
I love both of the perspectives of this. I think it's going to be helpful for everyone, who's watching to really see both sides, because not everybody has an innovation team, and, it's got to get done both ways. But Phil, how or what did you identify as an entry point for your industrial Internet of Things solution?
So an entry point, again, was more about how we would approach a pilot. So as I said before, initially we looked at this as a potential resource for working through situations where maybe we don't have a qualified individual, that we could use the tool to help emergency response or other type of work with a qualified individual and walking them through a particular process. But when we again looked at utilizing something like this in our process, and understanding that it is a pilot and we need to get the engagement of the operational group, how do we really work to understand this? So we kind of took a step back and looked at it as more of a using it as a training tool, so we can develop the product, get our operational folks some time to use the product in more of a training environment, and really use that then to potentially leverage this in more of our operational activities that we do daily.
What about you, Al? Where was your entry point?
So that's an interesting question. Actually, rather than saying entry point, it was more like an opportunity point, right? So we've been looking at IoT solutions for quite some time, and within the last year and a half or so, I'd say, we had the opportunity to interface with our nuclear teams and our tech training teams, and both of them were really interested in how they could further enhance their employee experience and the field crew's experience in their training and their electronic work management, in being able to operate in hazardous environments with minimizing their the number of folks that are out there. So when we interface with nuclear, I mentioned the electronic work management. Migrating from paper tracking in an extremely hazardous environment, that was a strong use case that came out, and something like the RealWear headset was an opportunity for us to pilot it, try it out, and see how it's playing out. And we're still exploring at this point, but that is one of the entry or opportunity points that we had exploited there. For tech training, for these connected worker devices, the remote mentor-mentee is almost a given, right? That's the capability that's just native and default, if you will. But when we think about it from a safety perspective, when we have linemen under training, usually you have two people up there in a bucket truck. We'd be able to send just one up there and have the instructor on the ground being able to walk that person through the steps needed to, switch out an insulator or repair a transformer, et cetera. Inadvertently, though, we had found a couple of other use cases. Our commercial industrial inspections team, actually under the pressures with COVID and whatnot, decided to use the headsets to only send one inspector to a site while 4 other inspectors participated alongside, and therefore saving the costs and the exposure of these other 4 out there in the field. So tremendous savings right there. And then when we talked to enterprise security, they were talking about this from a COVID perspective, seeing how they can explore this further with integrating body wearables to real time, be able to see a situation of folks if they have elevated temperatures or whatnot, because you do your best to manage the building security to make sure that people are taking their temperatures and whatnot. But there's always a potential that somebody might get past that for whatever reason, and we want to make sure that we're keeping our workers safe, and this might be an opportunity for us to enhance that.
So Al, you mentioned cost as one key factor. What are some of the other upfront metrics that you're putting into place to measure success?
Well, again, this is a exploratory pilot at this point. So, cost is obviously, the easiest one to measure, right? But as far as Other measurements would be things like reducing the amount of error in data entry, right? Because that improves productivity. Anytime you have a rework on that, it still goes back to cost, but still it's part of the experience itself. So when you measure the employee experience and how much better they feel about their situation, their work situation, especially in today's times. I think that's another metric that we're tracking here. I mentioned the savings in travel. It's just not only the dollar signs there, but again, the exposure. You're getting on a plane, off a plane, in the actual facility that you're in. So the more we can minimize that at this point in time, the better. And also, again, going back to electronic work management, if they can capture all of that and even review it later, the amount of potential for error has been significantly reduced.
What about for SEMCO, Phil? Any upfront metrics there?
Again, cost, like Al said, that was one of our big drivers. Nothing that we've talked about specifically, but certainly from the safety side of things, again, that's where we really kind of seen the benefit. So between the cost of saving our folks travel when we start doing our operator qualifications, I'll take a step back. For instance, with SEMCO, logistically, we have some challenges where we can't always expect our employees to come to our corporate training center. In a lot of cases, when we go through our operator qualification, we actually go to those areas because in some cases we might have a 10-hour drive from our headquarters to our furthest division. So from that perspective, safety metrics are certainly something that's considered when we start talking about COVID exposure, and like I said, the cost of travel and related expenses.
So, Phil, once the project got beyond the innovation stage, how did you find a business sponsor?
So I guess I was fortunate in that I kind of became the business sponsor. So again, as I mentioned, this was originally brought up from a colleague and really looked at from that remote worker type of scenario. But once he had presented that to me, I really became that business sponsor from my group and knowing how this could affect our processes from that operational qualification and training perspective. And again, knowing that we're seeing challenges in a COVID environment and how training has changed, I really took that initiative to look at this from our company and know that there are obviously other areas that we could leverage technology like this to improve our efficiencies in our actual operational environment.
Well, I'm very glad to have you as our business sponsor, Phil. Al, what about you?
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, our business sponsors are involved from the get-go. We want to make sure that there's no surprises going into the business or field operations areas. So they are involved with us from the time we, discover or explore and find a new technology or concept. We are bouncing it off of them. And that way, as we are diligencing this and it gets beyond our diligence and involves their subject matter experts, they're on board. And when this is at a point of critical mass and they're ready to pull the trigger on this, they're already there. Excuse me, they're already there. So again, it's part of this whole innovation cross-cutting team process that we have in there. But I have to stress, this also helps further build and reinforce the innovation culture, when all the stakeholders are informed and involved from the get-go. It's really important.
Great. Okay, Al, we've selected the technology, we've identified metrics, a business sponsor, and it's time to transition into deployment. What other divisions need to be involved to ensure success?
Well, IT, no doubt, right? Because when we're talking about a connected worker here, we're not just talking about adding that device onto the network, although that alone is a significant challenge, but it's also the data itself. The data now is in a different format, and whereas before I mentioned the paper trail that we had and converting all of that. Now it's being captured directly with photos and videos, and then actually with the real world headset, navigating through some of these some of these forms and being able to fill them out right there on the spot, and then uploading that, making sure that all of that, along with the data governance behind that, is absolutely in line. That's a huge, huge component and a huge lift and assist we need from IT. This connected worker concept, it's going to be kind of an amalgamation of all the right IoT devices, for the job at hand. So again, with respect to IT, it's not just one device is going to solve everything. It's going to be the right device for the right job. But in the end, again, it's a means to an end. So, where data is captured, it's processed, and where it's exchanged more quickly and accurately. We want to make sure that that is all in place to, ultimately, otherwise we won't be able to reduce the O&M, and the customer experience won't be where it should be. So exciting times, but this is where we're trying to head with all this.
That's great. So Phil, same thing. What other departments do you feel like need to be involved?
Yeah, to echo Al, certainly IT obviously is involved in the process. As we look to start the integration of the solution, it's really about having that virtual connectivity. But as we further look to develop the process, our GIS group is another one that comes to mind. Being able to integrate information and that solution into the platform. Our business applications group. So as we work to build, the interfaces between some of our other platforms, in terms of entering data and things for our actual work flows, that group becomes important. And then certainly our operational teams too. They're the end user. It's important that they're in the process from the beginning, has been talked before. So, a lot of work with a lot of important groups.
So Phil, as you move into the pilot phase and you've begun to get your feet wet with wearable technology, what do you think the future of the connected worker is?
Well, I've said it a lot through the interview is, we're kind of taking small steps at a time, but ultimately I think there's a lot of potential in adding technology like this into the daily tasks. So there's specific tasks in the utility operations that I think would benefit from this. Whether it's leak survey, we have other technology in our hands, and how do we ensure that data gets entered correctly into our processes when you're doing the task, and just having something as simple as a couple of free hands, having additional data sets at your fingertips, maps, and all of those things. So obviously that is one of them that I think that we can really leverage in this piece. I mentioned already that kind of remote worker. How do we walk through someone in an emergency response scenario that maybe isn't as familiar with a certain facility or valve? There's potential there. Line locating comes to mind in really improving our overall damage prevention program. Not only, again, as simple as freeing up hands, but improving documentation, having video of what you're doing, and being able to use that to support your everyday activity. There's a lot of opportunity here with this technology.
There certainly is. So Al, what do you think the future is?
Yeah, I would echo pretty much everything Phil just said. And also, as I mentioned before, this is a means to an end of enabling just new capabilities that we've done before in a different way, in a maybe more cumbersome way. And it's also stressing our push to evolve our digital infrastructure, right? Because the business and field ops, as I mentioned before, the IT OT, they never converged, and things like this are going to push that envelope and push us to become a better company, a safer company, and ultimately really help our strategic priorities, achieve our strategic priorities. So again, super exciting times, and we're really looking forward to seeing what real work can do for us and exploring some of the other augmented reality solutions that are out there.
Thank you, Al and Phil, for your time with us. It was really wonderful hearing your insights into this innovation process, and hopefully it will provide some guidance to other utilities looking to implement this type of technology. Now, we are going to jump over to CBT's Wearable Compute Manager, Mike Stiebick, for insight and demonstrations on Connected Worker. Mike, we just heard from Al and Phil. They mentioned some of the struggles they are facing. Could you recap those for us and share how Connected Worker can step in and solve these issues?
Absolutely. Thanks, Megan. So for Connected Worker for Utilities, I'm Michael Stiebick, Solution Manager at CBT for Wearable Compute. So let's jump into some of those challenges Al and Phil just highlighted. Some of those key challenges were the remote mentor and remote mentee. That's where we're able to do troubleshooting and emergency response with qualified individuals in a live session, either one-to-one or one-to-many real-time. Employee training and changing workforce, especially with retirement. We'll dive into each of these categories here in a second. I just wanted to give a high-level overview of kind of the key concepts we got out of that meeting with Al and Phil. Safety is, of course, a top concern. Connected Worker also interfacing with all other apps, IT and OT. We're also seeing a lot with inspections, as well as operator qualifications. Finally, the digitalization of processes with digital workflows and the voice entry of data. So for remote mentor, remote mentee, this is again remote troubleshooting and emergency response with the qualified individual. This has been extremely beneficial for the following reasons. Not only are we able to get a quicker time to repair and get that asset back up to operating, but we're reducing travel costs. So we're reducing the need for those truck rolls, the reduced need of per diem, getting on a plane, taking up half the expert's day. Now those experts can be helping multiple sites each day because they're not having to do all that travel. As well as the local operator at that site is learning the task while the expert's walking them through it to make sure it's done safely and correctly, helping that, the lesser skilled worker is now becoming more of the expert as he's interacting with more of the expert's duties and certification level skills. I'm going to play a quick video here to show the remote mentor capabilities. So just to give a little background, this is out at Houston, Texas, at our refinery of the future. That has been an excellent production environment for a connected worker. As you see here, Mike is walking out to the pump, and he's our local operator. This is an older pump that, again, we've put sensors on because the operators needed to see real-time IoT data, whether it's the temperature and vibration of the pump. As you see here in the middle, we have a QR code that can trigger a lot of that response. So now I'm telling the local operator to check on all the different sensors because we're having bad readings with the equipment. He's going through each of the sensors and verifying everything's correctly there. I'm having him just check, make sure there's no oil coming out, nothing's, out of the ordinary as it should be. Then I'm going to have him walk over to the control panel to see some of the readings. Notice the connected worker is great for real-time annotations as well. I'm going to be drawing his attention to the LCD panel, so you'll be seeing that right up here. Notice right there I annotated on with a blue circle, drawing his attention. Now he can zoom in for me to show me exactly what I need to see. Finally, I'm going to ask him to go back to the pump because with this, there's great noise cancellation. It's crystal clear communication, but sometimes we need to hear that background noise. So, he's going to go over back to the pump and then disable that, and I can hear as well as, I'm already seeing through his eyes, but now I can hear any kind of anomalies that's going on with those machine and the equipment. So again, this is just a great example of how connected worker can benefit, that I'm the expert. I was able to get that pump back up and running immediately instead of having to get on a plane, do a 4-hour flight, do a 1-hour truck roll. We got that asset immediately back up and running very quickly using the connected worker solution. I'd also like to highlight that anything we see here in the field, we can take snapshots of, and that will be retained as well as it was whole being recorded as well. So we can review it for training and compliance at a later date. So the other thing we've been focusing on is employee training in the changing workforce, especially retirement. So how do we get away from those paper manuals, increase the effectiveness and training cycle of the new hires to get up to speed? How do we capture that expert knowledge who's been doing the job for 20 or 30 years to the next generation, the new hires and the lesser skilled workers? How can we easily produce videos that follow step-by-step instructions for training videos? Well, using CBT's connected worker strategy, we're able to create expert production level quality content by the actual operator doing the job to pass that along to the rest of the organization. We're going to show a demo of this real quick, but I just wanted to show that, we're using hands-free devices so the experts can capture all of the information that they want to pass along, and a video is so much more beneficial than just a 100-page paper manual. So let's show a video of that now. So notice we have our operator here. He's working on a piece of equipment. This is very beneficial because, again, he's the expert. He's capturing everything we need to showcase and pass along to the next generation of workers. So the first step, again, is capturing those step-by-step instructions. So he's going to be capturing each step-by-step with this. Notice they're going through each of the different equipment and capturing exactly what is needed to do. So we're recording step by step here, as you see with the devices. We can zoom in, we can talk over it, we can record each step as we need to, taking photos, adding documentation. For the sake of time, I'm going to skip forward because I believe everyone understands how to capture step-by-step instruction of content. So here's where I want to kind of really focus on. Now that we've got the content captured, over here we have our cloud editor. So we can drag and drop and easily create expert looking content without having to include a production crew and be able to turn around a video same day versus making it take weeks. So as you see here, we're dropping the MP4, the video, and the photo files in steps, adding the text of step-by-step instructions, and then being able to even do narration on top of that so the next worker or the next team knows exactly what to do and follow that. Not only do they have the step-by-step videos, but then we can leverage our remote mentor capabilities, the remote expert, that if after they've watched this, they still have issues, they can dial up that subject matter expert or experts all around the world and have them coach them as they do it for safety and compliance purposes. We can also use these step-by-steps in either QR codes or with URL hyperlinks. Just as you see up here on the screen, it's showing each of the steps that he had just captured. So again, you don't have to be fully qualified and trained. You just need to follow the expert steps. And then if you have any issues, you can dial up the remote mentor with the remote expert, remote mentee capability. Back to worker safety, there's nothing more important than the safety of our workers. We have delivered huge safety benefits for the following: hands-free voice commands. And we're using head-mounted tablets. However, a lot of the CBT connect to worker solutions are device agnostic. We're just seeing huge benefits with utilities because, as you see over here, this is a head-mounted tablet securely fastened to the operator. It can take a punch. It's about 6 to 12 feet that it can be dropped, no issue. It's very rugged, 10 to 12 hour battery life, and it is class 1 division 1 rated, so it can go into some of the most dangerous environments. As you see over here, the operator has the camera, which is high definition, and it's got a flashlight built in for low light as well. This is the boom arm that can be swung out of the way as needed, but it does not impair his vision. It gives the view of about a 9-inch tablet that he can simply look down as needed. If he doesn't need the device, he can swing it out of the way, of course, as well. This allows, again, accessing just-in-time critical information and remote experts, as well as photos, videos, any kind of documentation, step-by-step process that the company needs the worker to follow for safety. We've also seen the challenges with SEMCO and Xcel Energy of digitalization of process, and connected workers helped address that. Voice entry of data is one of the ways of doing that. It's so much more efficient than pen and paper. Workers can now enter data on the job and have it synced immediately back to the cloud or the on-prem storage. We can also enable digital workflows, and these workflows are completely customizable and provide step-by-step instructions for the workers to complete, again, getting away from that pen and paper process. With these digital workflows, we can have reports that have information and documentation attached, whether it's photos, videos, step-by-step punch lists, and tying into the ERP system, whether it's SAP, Maximo, or whatever system the company is leveraging. Remote experts can be dialed in and they'll actually know what step of the workflow the worker's on. We can also link to documents, training videos, and enter documents and spreadsheets by voice, all during these tasks, which automatically update using Office 365. So now I'm going to show one of those digital workflow videos. Here's an example of one of the content videos that we've created, just to show kind of the art of the possible. This shows the available jobs that have been assigned to the operator. So I'm going to start by selecting this one. Now we're going to be looking at a lockout tagout, which is very familiar with a lot of the utilities and companies that we're working with. So we have a generic work order, a generic location, myself, the line lead, Michael Stiebick, and a machine serial number. I can either say pass, fail, because again, this is all done by voice, or if we're not using a hands-free device, I could simply click it. Or I could simply use this, as you see the crosshair moving left and right, I could say single click to give that mouse functionality. Now I'm allowing the operators to know that a lockout tagout is occurring. So again, I'm going to enter a name here. I'm going to put myself just because, you know, I'm the supervisor in this example, that I'm going to say dictation. And again, by voice, I'm saying Michael, and it instantly picks it up as you see here. Just to kind of jump through some of the examples here, we have photos on the right, could be a video, could be any kind of document. And again, it's telling me the instructions that are needed over here. When I log these pass and fails, that will be submitted and timestamped with the time and date in the report showing at this time, Michael captured the data, it was a pass, and that will be again sent via email or uploaded to the on-prem storage. We can also do authentication. So if I need to have a supervisor or I need to document that it's actually me doing the work, we can have a pen challenge that makes sure it knows it's me. Just to skip ahead, just to show some of the other functionality, we can also make it a loop. Notice the two options here, shutdown successful and shutdown failed. If I have it do shutdown failed and I don't want to allow the user to proceed, it will actually pop up and say cannot proceed, making sure that the user cannot proceed and, you know, until that shutdown is successful. Again, with the analytics, this is being not only time recorded, but it's showing kind of what the bottleneck steps are of the process to allow for training moments. Notice at the top here it says cannot proceed. Until we select shutdown successful, then it will allow us to proceed. We're also able to add these little question mark helpers as you see here. Disconnect the power supply and verify the control panel's off. Maybe I don't know how to do that. So on this step, I can actually click that question mark and see exactly what the power supply is. Okay, I need to pull this top power supply out just like in the image. Again, just empowering me and making me more resourceful to do that job or that task successfully. Just to skip ahead again, we can also dial in the remote expert using these little three buttons on the side. We can pause the job because it is being timed. We can connect to either a help desk or a single expert as needed. And we can actually leave feedback on the steps. So we could be entering verbal notes as we do each job or each task. We can also do a checklist. Again, that I'm documenting the control panel's off, electronic controls do not have any effect, and stored energy has been released. Again, this will only be sent as we need it to either the supervisor, the on-prem storage, and everything documented. We can also add photos or videos of the content as well. So if we needed to document anything in the field for compliance or showing it was done safely and correctly, we can add photos and videos on this step. Since I wasn't actually in a production environment, given the pandemic we're in currently, I was in my home office and simply took a photo of Mike and Ike since I have a sweet tooth. Again, those photos will be sent back with the report as well, with time and date stamped. We could add as many photos and videos as needed on any of these steps. Finally, we're going to just do one more inspection checklist to do all three to make sure everything was done safely and correctly. And then I can send off the work order with my pen. Again, this is just some of the art of the possible. You don't have to do the pins. These steps can be customized exactly to your process. It doesn't have to be lockout, tagout. Again, just showing the art of the possible. And then after that, it's job complete and it's done. I'm also going to show another sample workflow that we're able to do. This has been extremely beneficial with Xcel Energy. So notice this has different step-by-step over here, where it's more of a content repository than having them challenge and do each step. On the right, you see we have a document here. We'll be able to expand that and interact with it, as these are all the steps that we could have the user do. So as you see here, we'll be able to expand it. And again, all this is done by voice. So we've expanded the document. I have the crosshair moving around my head, simply moving my head left to right. And these are all YouTube videos on how to do the simple instructions on the head-mounted device we're using. We could open those at any point, as we'll demonstrate in the second step. We can also skip pages by voice by saying go to page and then saying 2, for example. Notice it's gone up to page 2, and we could zoom in at any point as needed as well to interact with the document, saying page down to scroll down so I could see any kind of instructions as I'm in the field. Once I'm done with that, I can shrink the view, and notice on step 2, by saying next step or step 2, it comes up to a YouTube video. This is about the device we're leveraging in the field with Xcel Energy and SEMCO. So as I expand the device, now you're seeing a little bit of the interactiveness that I was talking about in the safety part, showing the different features of the device. This is just, again, a sample YouTube video, but it could be any video that the company has already produced or captured with that tribal knowledge already uploaded to the device. We're also able to take a photo in the step-by-step instructions, which will also be time and date stamped. In addition to the sweet tooth, I'm a little bit of a gamer, so now I'm taking a photo of the controller as you see here. By saying take photo, it takes the photo and it has the time and date stamp at the bottom. This will automatically be saved to the device in the specific work order. And then finally, we're able to do the data entry by voice. So this is a simple document that we're using for inspections, and we're able to do dictation into it. So notice I'm going into the test description, going over to dictation, and saying test description. It immediately picks it up and it inserts into the document. Once I click into the next line, it will drop it right into the place in the middle, as you'll see here, where I'm going to leaks and failures. So as I click leaks and failures, I'm going to again dictate into it saying no leaks. This could be as I'm doing my maintenance, my inspections, documenting everything I need to in the field. As you see there, it took no leaks perfectly, and as I click into it, it's completely done. Also leveraging this workflow, we can dial up a remote expert using Teams, Zoom, WebEx, or for our remote expert by just simply saying Zoom. Notice I say Zoom there and it immediately popped up, and I could create a mentor-mentee session or share it with the rest of my team as needed to get that meeting or task done. I hope you enjoyed those demo workflows. Now I'm going to go back to the slides. We're also doing inspections now remotely, especially given the pandemic. One person on site and could be filming and recording everything for the inspection, as the rest of the team all around the world are able to participate. Again, this reduces the need for travel, that not everyone on the team needs to be there. Again, those sessions can be recorded so we can document and review as necessary. We're also able to do bidirectional audio and visual communication. So that means not only in a one-to-one or one-to-many, but the viewers can be coaching the local inspector as needed and doing those live annotations as well, as you saw in the first video. Not only that, seeing through the local remote inspector's view and hearing with them and doing a communication, but the team could be pushing any kind of documents or instructions to the expert in the field as they're doing those inspections for the company. As you see over here, we have a wearable view just of how it looks on that head-mounted tablet. Again, it looks kind of small on the PowerPoint, but it's about a 9-inch view for the actual user. Finally, we're also doing operational qualifications with Xcel and SEMCO. So operator qualifications are very important for many utilities. So how can we leverage the connected worker to streamline this critical process? Well, by recording the session with time and date stamps to prove qualification for company compliance, the evaluator can now be qualifying multiple employees a day in various locations without needing to travel to a training center or job site. Again, this is just extremely important, reducing the need for travel, not bringing in the employees or the experts to a single site. We can be doing multiples in a day. So I hope you enjoyed the connected worker demonstration. Here's some contact information to reach out to us below. Thank you again for your time, and back to you, Gina.
Thank you so much, Mike, and thank you, Megan. Such a great panel and demonstration from CBT. We're so glad to have you as partners for UA Week. As a reminder, this session will be available on the UA Week platform until Friday, December 4th. The discussion forum will remain available, and we encourage you to continue interacting with today's speaker, sponsor, panelists, and each other with questions and comments. Our speaker and sponsor will be monitoring and responding to these questions on a regular basis. Please do take a moment to fill out the evaluation by clicking the evaluation button that appears underneath the presentation window. On behalf of Utility Analytics Institute, our sponsor CBT, thank you so much for joining us. This concludes our presentation.